Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So I've got another classic album inspection for you today, and this is Van Halen's Diver Down, released the 14th of April 1982. So let's get the cat out of the bag. This isn't a classic Van Halen album. It's not of the calibre of the four that came before it or 1984. But I still think it's a really cool record. It's still classic Van Halen era. It's very hard for bands to make consistently great albums that are classics, and you can't blame or Halen for maybe dropping the ball a little bit. But when you actually research this, you kind of realise that they weren't intending to make an album, and this was kind of done on the fly a bit. So I think it deserves a little more credit for that, and there's reasons why. For that reason, there's cover versions on. So basically, Van Halen get off the Fair Warning tour. Obviously, Fair Warning is the least commercially successful album. I think the record company wants him to do a single, possibly to capitalise on MTV as well. So the first thing Daily Roth throws out is Dancing in the Streets. Eddie can't get the grips of it. He's not sure what to do. So it's Eddie Van Halen suggests Pretty Woman. And they go in the studio and cut that in a day. In Sunset Sound, I think, their usual studio with Ted Templeman. It was amazing, isn't it? Cut it in a day. That gets put out. I think they make the video where they're kind of dressed up as cowboys, and I think one was dressed up as an Indian, and Michael Anthony's dressed up as a samurai. Can't remember, but obviously that gets traction on MTV, and then they have a hit single on their hands. I'm not sure when it was released, but it might have been January, Feb of that year. I remember the video stills in Kerrang magazine. So then the record company's like, look, you've got a hit single on your hands, you need to get in the studio. So that's where kind of like pulling in cover versions came in. So Where Have All the Good Times Gone, they knew several Kinks numbers that had success with You Really Got Me, obviously. So they did that. They're all done a Pretty Woman. They revisited the Dancing in the Streets, Eddie choosing to do it on synth. Then there was Big Bad Bill, which Davey Roth knew as a tune. They got in Eddie Van Halen's dad to play clarinet on it. Eddie Van Halen actually read chord charts to do it, because he couldn't remember all the chords because it's a kind of jazzy vamp. And then there's Happy Trails, which is originally composed by Dale Evert, who was performing Roy Rogers, and that was on the Quicksilver Messenger Service as well. That's where I think they probably heard it on Quicksilver Messenger Service's album. So that's why there was the 5 cover versions. Then you got quirky little instrumentals which kind of pad things out, and then some original cuts. And the original cuts, I think, were kind of pulled from kind of demos and ideas they had going back to 77, and that would include Hang 'em High. Sorry, just a bit of an itch. So how does this album pan out? Like, if you got the vinyl, it would have 11 tracks on, but when you actually went on the inner of the records, it's 12 tracks, because Little Guitar's intro was classed as a separate track. So it's 6 tracks aside, 31 minutes and 4 seconds, classic Van Halen. In length of that era. So opens with Where Have All the Good Times Gone, their Kinks cover, 3 minutes and 2. I really like this track. It's got a nice groove, really nice melody. They do their own spin on it. Quite an odd solo. Eddie kind of just makes kind of some pick slides and harmonic noises. If I've got a criticism of the album, there's a couple of like really cool creative moments from Eddie on Cathedral, and the Little Guitar's intro. But his solos aren't great here. I don't think he was totally infused, but I think this was churned out in 12 days. It was literally, right, we're making an album. 12 days. I mean, who makes albums in 12 days now? Anyway, next track, Hang 'em High. I think this is like the kind of standout cut of side 1. It's got a really cool riff, double kick drum pattern. Quite a cool vocal from Davey Roth, kind of almost going down low, slightly out of tune, but deliberately. It's quite an unusual melody. Eddie kind of does his tremolo pick thing, like he did at the end of Beat It, and I think it's when you really start to hear him doing that, where he's going up the minor scale. Track 3 is Cathedral. So this was a piece that Eddie Van Halen was already doing his solo spot on the Fair Warning tour, so he's using a volume could swell, and he's probably got it compressed a bit, chorused, and he's got the delay on. A lot of players copied this idea, and then basically he's hammering on, swelling the volume. And he's just using A-shaped triad chords, generally speaking, in between little melodic bits. It's a really cool little instrumental, classic little Eddie thing that he did. Then you've got another standout cut, Secret. So this is good. This is just a good, really mellow pop track. I mean, there's nothing by Van Halen on the Daily Roth era like this. You know, and again, I think it deserves credit. Really nice Eddie part, nice sort of upper triad sus4 type of pattern with some inversions as well on the D, open D, G, B, E type thing. Good, nice little lead break in it. Nice sort of mellow vocal from Dave with some falsetto. Quite a mature track, you know. Then you got Intruder, which is kind of a stark sort of synth track with a really cool drum beat. You can hear like how cool Alex's snare drum sound is on this, and Eddie does loads of cool pick scrapes and kind of evil sounds. And then Side One finished with a cover of Pretty Woman, which works really well, suits the band down to a T. They basically turn it into a pop metal tune. There's some the riff's really cool the way Eddie does it with a whammy, and that was a big hit for the band. This album sold 4 million copies, so it actually sold better than Women and Children or Fair Warning, and yeah, Van Halen 2 will have sold more by now. But I think one thing it shows you on Side One, it hasn't got a clear focus. I think you know, I did a classic albums on Judas Priest Point of Entry, and I mentioned Judas Priest before having a run of classic albums from Sad Wings through to certainly Scream for Vengeance, maybe Defenders, and then Point of Entry's kind of slap bang in there as kind of the weird album. And I suppose this is like that, but if you take it on its own merits, it's a cool record. So Side 2, track 7, opened with Dancing in the Streets. Again, a lot of people hate this, but I actually think it's really cool what the band does. Didn't realise it was just co-written by Marvin Gaye, this track, but Eddie does a cool kind of synth thing. He does a cool solo. It's kind of funky. Yeah, it's an interesting cover. They do something interesting with it. It's better than David Bowie's and Mick Jagger's version. And then you've got Little Guitar's intro, which is 42 seconds. This is really clever, great thing by Eddie. Basically, kind of mimics a sort of flamenco sound, but not really. And then he tremolo picks the high E string, the B and G, and then he hammers on the bass melody at the same time with his fingers. I kind of tried it, and it really is like patting your head and rubbing. It must have taken a lot of practice, and then he plays some really nice chords, sort of E-shaped type chords, open E-shaped type chords, with the open being high E, and he plays some sort of expressive kind of flamenco-y type patterns, but it's not flamenco. It's flamenco inspired. Really cool. And Little Guitars, I would say this is the standout cut on the album, the whole album. Again, it's a pop track in the style of Secrets, but with more rocky guitar. It's really good. Lovely backing vocals by Michael and Eddie, maybe just Michael. Dave does a nice pop vocal. Eddie's doing lovely chicken picking parts. And it's great at the end when he does a cool overdub. Well, it feels like an overdub chord. And you can hear like the grunt on his guitar. I mean, this doesn't have a definitive Brown sound, you know, it is kind of knocked out there, this. Yeah, this is great, track 347, and then there's that cover of Big Bad Bill, which is lovely. Jan Van Halen gets in on the clarinet. Again, the band just pull off, you know, Alex is on the brushes. It feels like they're a little jazz trio, and Dave sings, and we all know that Dave Lee Roth, people knock him, but he there's not a lot of singers can sing, you know, kind of crooner stuff really well and authentically, and he can and he could. Really liked it. Then there's the Full Bug, which is a kind of up-tempo rocker with a kind of kick-ass riff, kick-ass solo, really nice breakdown, sort of bluesy chicken picked part. Dave, bad little woman going to bat your ass. It's great. And then they finish with Happy Trails. I love this. It's just the band harmonising. He used to play it to warm up, sing it to warm up, and he used to sing at airports and that. It's just the band gassing in the studio. It's like the band kind of like they've had a laugh making the album, they've knocked it out, and it's like they're saying, right, happy trails to you, the person, you know, and you kind of feel like the band's wishing you well as the album finishes. So, you know, I like this album. I'd give it 8.5 out of 10. It's not, you know, it's a mishmash, but it shows like the diversity of Van Halen. It's more poppy. And I think in that respect, you can see it's actually an influence on 1984. Those poppy elements will find their way into I'll Wait, Jump, tracks like Panama, but they'll have like the raucous guitar. of sort of kind of Van Halen 2 and Van Halen 1. I think the 1984 album doesn't kind of have the sort of grit, anger of Women and Children and Fair Warning, but some people knock 1984 now. I think it's a great record, great commercial hard rock record. Obviously, we'll celebrate that in a few years, but yeah, Diver Down, 40 years old today. It's never an album that's disappointed me in a sense, because I've always enjoyed listening to it and I've saw it for what it is. It's the album that's not a classic in the first six, but it's still a good record and it's still got some really cool stuff on. So thanks for checking that out, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.